Welcome to Reno's World Podcast, where truth slips through the cracks and myth whispers in the dark. I'm Reno Rains. Tonight's topic, urban legends or government cover-ups, the truth about what we believe. We play an old movie in the background because, well, this is a podcast and we like to keep things interesting. Buckle up, let's dive in. It always starts the same way. A strange report, a distorted voice, a witness who never wanted to be one. And then silence. No follow-up, no explanation, just a quiet file tucked away under redacted ink labeled resolved. But it wasn't, because the next night someone else sees the same thing. A figure on the road, a mechanical hum in the trees, a child at the door with all black eyes asking to be let in. We call them urban legends, stories we're told to laugh at. But what if they weren't made up? What if some of them, just enough to matter, were real? And what if your government already knew? Let's open the black box. I saw something I wasn't supposed to. The next morning, my security clearance was gone. Unnamed Lockheed engineer anonymous interview, 2007. We begin not with a myth, but with a memo. In 1987, a report was quietly submitted to the U.S. Department of Defense. The subject line, non-terrestrial biological entities, social engineering recommendations. That document has never been released in full, but references to it appeared in a 2010 FOIA request linked to the MJ-12 documents, an alleged cache of intelligence reports regarding extraterrestrial contact. The response? No such records exist, except they do. They're just marked under other names. Let's back up. Ever heard of Spring Heel Jack? London, 1837. Witnesses described a leaping, fire-breathing entity that terrorized women in the streets. Folklore? Sure. Except the British War Office actually filed a classified report about him in 1840. That report was sealed until 1961. Jump cut, Texas, 1969. Local news reports a creature with glowing eyes leaping over buildings near Houston. The U.S. Air Force sent a team to investigate and dismissed it as a mass hallucination. But years later, a declassified Project Blue Book document included a hand-drawn sketch, almost identical to the original Spring Heel Jack. What are we looking at? A legend that persists for over a century across continents and gets quietly filed every time it shows up. The Mothman is next. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, 1966. Red-eyed, winged humanoid. Real witnesses. Real fear. Days before the Silver Bridge collapse that killed 46 people, dozens of reports flooded the police department. But here's where it gets strange. Weeks before those sightings, military contractors from SAIC Science Applications International Corp. showed up in town, allegedly to install seismic equipment. That same company had active DARPA contracts in 1966. Coincidence or predictive surveillance? Because after the collapse, the Mothman was never seen again. Not in West Virginia, at least. Now let's talk about black-eyed children, the story that exploded on the early internet in 1998. A man named Brian Bethel reported a disturbing encounter in Abilene, Texas. 2 children with completely black eyes knocked on his car window, asking to be let in. Their voices were flat, their movements robotic. The tale went viral. But here's what no one talks about. A 1996 FBI memo, declassified through FOIA, references encounters with anomalous juveniles exhibiting behavioral mimicry and ocular irregularities. The memo is redacted, but the timeline matches. And even stranger, the file is tagged under Behavioral Analysis Unit 3, the one that deals with cults and unexplainable phenomena. Let's jump further back. Mesopotamia, 2000 BCE. Ancient clay tablets describe the Utuku, soulless children with dark eyes who demanded entry into homes. Some historians dismiss it as metaphor. Others, like Dr. Michael Heiser, a scholar of ancient Semitic languages, note the stunning similarities between these accounts and modern black-eyed child stories. The pattern goes deeper than culture. It feels engineered. So what does all this mean? Every time a legend appears, there's a government file, there's a response team, there's silence. And the official narrative? Urban legend. Nothing to see. But behind the curtain, documents, black budgets, and redacted lines that lead nowhere. We create myths to hide programs. If a town sees something strange, better they think it's a monster than an experimental drone. Edward Snowden, indirect reference during 2013 AMA. And that's the problem. What if half these legends were planted to distract from real programs? Or worse, what if they weren't planted at all? Because there's one more connection. According to the 1994 Defense Intelligence Agency memo, recovered through FOIA in 2017, the following entities were listed as anomalous sociocultural events under observation: Mothman, Point Pleasant, 1966; Black-Eyed Children, Southwest U.S., 1990s; Skinwalker Ranch anomalies, Utah, various. This is real. It's not a Reddit thread. It's not a creepypasta. These are terms in official U.S. military documents. And we haven't even gotten to the Van Meter visitor, the Hopkinsville goblins, or the Flatwoods monster. All cases with eyewitness reports filed to law enforcement and followed up by federal agencies. If these are just fairy tales, why are the feds keeping track? But what happened next would break every rule of logic we thought we understood. You thought it was over? No, no, no. It's only just begun. And now it's coming for you. You see, the deeper you go, the less you can breathe. Because these urban legends, these coincidences, are connected to something much bigger. The Mothman wasn't just a harbinger of death, he was the tip of the iceberg. He was the first anomaly that got noticed. But the system notices all of them, every single one. Take Skinwalker Ranch, for example, 1996, Utah. A place where UFOs, cryptids, and mysterious government teams all seem to cross paths. According to documents from Bigelow Aerospace, who secretly funded the investigations at the ranch, scientists observed unexplainable electromagnetic phenomena and even reports of flesh-contorting creatures, the very type of beings referenced in ancient Navajo folklore as skinwalkers. But here's where it gets insane. This was all happening while the ranch was under constant surveillance by the U.S. government. Why? What was so important about this remote piece of land? When we looked into Bigelow's private security contracts and connected the dots, something odd appeared. In the early 2000s, they were granted access to DARPA's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, the very same program that would later evolve into the AATIP, the Pentagon's secret UFO program, revealed by former Senator Harry Reid in 2017. In other words, the same team looking into alien technology was also looking into Skinwalker Ranch. Wait, stop. You're not going to believe this next part. Project Stargate, the CIA's remote viewing program. You thought that was just for government spooks and psychic warriors, didn't you? Well, guess what? The remote viewing sessions didn't just focus on Soviet military bases. They targeted anomalies, mysterious creatures, UFOs, places like, you guessed it, Skinwalker Ranch. According to declassified documents, CIA contractors used psychic observers to record phenomena, including shadowy figures, creatures with glowing eyes, and instances of levitation, directly matching accounts from the Black-Eyed Children sightings we discussed earlier. The question is, did the CIA think these things were real, or were they just hunting for something else? Something bigger? Someone wanted this buried. And it almost worked. Now, brace yourself, it gets worse. Because these black-eyed children we've been talking about, they didn't just appear in Texas or in a creepy corner of the internet. They've been spotted across the globe, and each time the authorities quietly investigate. One particularly disturbing encounter took place in Aberdeen, Scotland, 2003. Two children, once again with jet black eyes, appeared at the doorstep of a local family. The witness, whose identity has never been released, reported hearing a distinct mechanical hum just before the children knocked. This is where it gets shocking. 2 days after the encounter, police reports were filed by local authorities regarding an unknown black van parked in the vicinity. The van was registered to a defunct government research contractor specializing in experimental psychiatric techniques, including memory manipulation. And wait for it, the report was filed under Unexplained Phenomenon Psychological Operations. Let that sink in for a second. You know what else didn't get buried? The Van Meter visitor, another cryptid that shouldn't exist, but does. In 1903, in a small town in Iowa, an entity, similar in description to the Mothman, terrorized locals for over a week. Residents claim to have witnessed the creature with glowing red eyes and horns that emitted a high-pitched hum. Most people dismissed it as a trick of the light until the U.S. Army, yes, the U.S. Army, was reported as arriving in Van Meter within 48 hours of the creature's last known sighting. Why were military personnel dispatched? And why, despite dozens of eyewitness accounts, was the entire event marked classified for over 70 years? It wasn't until 2014, decades later, that Congress was forced to release a small batch of investigative reports, including testimony from military officers stationed in the area. The report? No definitive explanation found. Remains under observation. What were they observing? A legend? Or something else entirely? At this point, you're probably wondering, why is this happening? Why all the secrecy? And why haven't we heard about this before? Well, here's the thing. The truth is out there, but it's buried deep. Government cover-ups are real. They've been happening for years. And those urban legends, they're the carefully constructed smokescreen designed to keep you distracted, to make you laugh, to make you think it's all just some fun story. But here's the catch. These are not myths. These aren't the stuff of bedtime stories. These are real phenomena investigated and hidden by the very institutions we trust to protect us. And here's the final bombshell. Somewhere, right now, a new report is being written. A new cover-up is underway, and you won't even know it's happening. Because this isn't the end. This is just the beginning. What's confirmed? U.S. government involvement in tracking and investigating cryptid sightings. The consistent patterns of glowing-eyed creatures and anomalous events linked to classified military investigations. Skinwalker Ranch, Mothman, black-eyed children, CIA remote viewing programs with cryptid research as a key component. Black-eyed children sightings tied to psychological and governmental surveillance. What's speculation? Whether the creatures seen were extraterrestrial or experimental in nature. The full extent of the military's involvement in the cover-up of such phenomena. What remains unresolved? The ultimate purpose of the psychological operations behind these sightings. Whether we are truly dealing with anomalies of the natural world or something far darker and more covert. Whether it was misunderstanding, cover-up, or something far stranger, this case remains unresolved and very real.